Constantine the Great was born around 272 CE in Nisus, a city in the Roman province of Moesia, modern-day Niš, Serbia. His father, Constantius Chlorus, was an ambitious military officer who would eventually rise to become Caesar, or junior emperor, in the Tetrarchy under Emperor Diocletian. Constantine's mother, Helena, was of humble origins, often described as an innkeeper's daughter, though later sources regard her with reverence as a Christian saint. During Constantine's early years, the Roman Empire was experiencing significant political and military changes under Diocletian's Tetrarchy, a system where the empire was divided and governed by 4 rulers to improve administrative efficiency. Constantine's family was initially a part of this elite ruling circle, but he spent much of his childhood away from his father, as Constantius climbed the military ranks and served in various parts of the empire. Constantine received a classical Roman education, exposing him to both military discipline and the cultural values of the time. His formative years were largely shaped by his environment at the imperial court, where he witnessed the challenges of imperial politics and the volatility of power. This experience laid the groundwork for his later ambitions and his resilience as a leader, setting him apart as he rose through the ranks to eventually unify the empire under his rule. Constantine's education and early military career were marked by exposure to both Roman culture and the complexities of imperial politics. Raised in the court of Emperor Diocletian, Constantine received a classical Roman education that emphasized philosophy, history, literature, and rhetoric. This education not only provided him with an intellectual foundation but also introduced him to the values and expectations of Roman leadership. His training extended beyond academics, as he was also groomed for military service, which was essential for any future ruler in the Roman Empire. As he grew older, Constantine gained practical experience in military campaigns. Serving under the guidance of senior officers, he became familiar with the strategies and demands of warfare. Constantine accompanied Diocletian on campaigns in the eastern provinces, notably witnessing battles against the Sassanid Persians. These experiences offered him invaluable insight into both the discipline required for command and the challenges posed by Rome's many enemies. Constantine's early career continued in the court of Galerius, another senior emperor in the Tetrarchy, who kept Constantine somewhat as a political hostage to ensure Constantius' loyalty. Although this was a form of control, it ultimately exposed Constantine to diverse parts of the empire and allowed him to observe the workings of the Tetrarchy up close. By the time he returned to his father in the west, Constantine was already a seasoned soldier and commander, well prepared to assert his claim to power when the opportunity arose. Constantine's rise to power began dramatically in 306 CE, when his father, Constantius Chlorus, fell seriously ill during a campaign in Britain. Constantine, who had recently joined his father there after escaping the politically restrictive environment of Emperor Galerius's court, was at his father's side in the city of Eboracum, modern-day York, England, as Constantius lay dying. After Constantius passed, Constantine's troops, loyal to his father's legacy and impressed by Constantine's capabilities, declared him Augustus, or senior emperor, in defiance of the established rules of succession within the Tetrarchy. This declaration was unconventional, as it bypassed the usual approval required from the other emperors in the Tetrarchic system. Constantine's ascension challenged the power balance and was seen as an affront by Galerius, who reluctantly acknowledged Constantine but only granted him the lesser title of Caesar instead of Augustus. Nevertheless, Constantine maintained his claim, gaining control over Britain, Gaul, and parts of the Western Roman Empire, where he quickly won the loyalty of his new subjects. Constantine's proclamation as Augustus marked the beginning of his campaign for dominance, setting him on a path of strategic alliances and military confrontations with rival emperors. His early authority, backed by a loyal army, allowed him to consolidate power and eventually brought him into direct conflict with his co-emperors, fundamentally shifting the trajectory of the Roman Empire. Following his proclamation as Augustus in 306 CE, Constantine the Great faced significant challenges from rival emperors in the Tetrarchy, primarily Maxentius and Licinius. His claim to power was immediately contested, as the established tetrarchs did not recognize his authority. This set the stage for a series of military confrontations that would ultimately define Constantine's rise to sole power. Initially, Maxentius, the son of the former Emperor Maximian, rejected Constantine's claim and positioned himself as the ruler of the Western Roman Empire. Tensions escalated, and in 312 CE, Constantine marched south to confront Maxentius, culminating in the famous Battle of the Milvian Bridge. This battle was pivotal, as Constantine reportedly experienced a vision of the Christian cross before the fight, leading him to adopt the emblem as his standard. His forces decisively defeated Maxentius, who drowned while attempting to escape. This victory not only solidified Constantine's control over the West, but also marked a significant moment in his conversion to Christianity, as he began to embrace the faith publicly. Following the defeat of Maxentius, Constantine turned his attention to Licinius, the Eastern emperor, who had allied with Maxentius before his downfall. Tensions between the two grew as Licinius sought to consolidate his power in the East, leading to a series of conflicts. In 314 CE, the first significant clash occurred, with Constantine defeating Licinius in a series of battles, further asserting his dominance. The conflict culminated in a full-scale war in 324 CE, which saw Constantine launching a campaign against Licinius, ultimately leading to a decisive victory at the Battle of Chrysopolis. Licinius was captured, and rather than execute him, Constantine chose to imprison him, although Licinius would later be executed for plotting against Constantine. These conflicts with rival emperors not only showcased Constantine's military prowess, but also marked a turning point in the Roman Empire's political landscape. By overcoming his rivals, Constantine emerged as the sole ruler of a unified empire, setting the stage for his transformative reign and the establishment of Constantinople as the new capital of the Roman Empire. His victories also enabled him to promote Christianity more broadly, changing the religious and cultural fabric of the empire forever. The Battle of the Milvian Bridge, fought on October 28, 312 CE, was one of the most pivotal moments in Constantine the Great's life and in the history of the Roman Empire. It was not only a decisive military victory, but also marked the beginning of Constantine's commitment to Christianity, a shift that would have profound effects on the Roman world. Constantine faced Maxentius, his rival for control over the Western Roman Empire, who had declared himself emperor in Rome and held power in Italy and Africa. As Constantine's campaign advanced southward, Maxentius fortified his position around Rome, choosing the Milvian Bridge, a key strategic crossing over the Tiber River, as the location for the battle. The stakes were high, as both leaders recognized that control over Rome itself, and, symbolically, the Western Empire, was on the line. According to early Christian sources, on the eve of the battle, Constantine reportedly experienced a vision that would change the course of his life. He saw a symbol in the sky, interpreted as the Christian Chiro, and the words in Hoc Signo Vinces, which means, "In this sign, you will conquer." Taking this as a divine sign, Constantine ordered his soldiers to adorn their shields with this Christian symbol, embracing it as a protective. On the day of the battle, Constantine's forces engaged Maxentius's troops at the Milvian Bridge. Despite being outnumbered, Constantine's army managed to outmaneuver Maxentius's forces. In the chaos of the fighting, Maxentius and many of his men attempted to retreat across the Tiber. The bridge collapsed under the weight, and Maxentius drowned in the river along with much of his army. Constantine's victory was absolute, allowing him to enter Rome as a triumphant conqueror. The victory at the Milvian Bridge marked the beginning of Constantine's sole control over the Western Roman Empire. It also solidified his favor toward Christianity, leading to the issuance of the Edict of Milan in 313, which granted religious tolerance throughout the empire and effectively ended the persecution of Christians. Constantine's embrace of Christianity would gradually transform it from a persecuted sect to the empire's dominant faith, reshaping the cultural and religious identity of the Roman Empire. The Edict of Milan, issued in 313 CE, was a landmark decree by Constantine the Great and his eastern co-emperor, Licinius, that granted religious tolerance throughout the Roman Empire. This edict not only ended the long-standing persecution of Christians, but also established a new era of religious freedom, allowing Christianity to flourish openly and without fear of reprisal. The background of the edict lies in Constantine's own experiences and shifting attitudes toward Christianity. Following his victory over Maxentius at the Battle of the Milvian Bridge in 312 CE, Constantine became more openly favorable to the Christian faith, influenced by his vision of the cross before the battle. His subsequent alliance with Licinius, the Eastern ruler, created an opportunity to establish a unified policy on religious freedom across the empire. The Edict of Milan went beyond merely tolerating Christianity. It explicitly guaranteed freedom of worship to people of all faiths, thereby ending the harsh restrictions and state-led persecutions that Christians had endured for centuries. The edict also stipulated that any confiscated Christian property, such as churches, lands, and other assets, be returned to Christian communities. This restitution underscored Constantine's commitment to redressing past injustices and reinforcing the standing of the Christian community. While not an official proclamation of Christianity as the state religion, which would come later, the Edict of Milan was a crucial turning point. It allowed Christians to openly practice their faith, build churches, and organize their communities without fear of government interference. The policy also allowed Constantine to present himself as a unifying figure in a diverse and religiously pluralistic empire. The Edict of Milan thus marked a significant shift in Roman policy, and its effects rippled far beyond Constantine's reign. By creating a foundation of religious tolerance, Constantine facilitated the rapid growth of Christianity and its eventual establishment as the dominant faith of the Roman Empire, fundamentally transforming its cultural and spiritual landscape. Constantine the Great's campaigns against Licinius, his co-emperor in the Eastern Roman Empire, marked the final struggle for sole control over the Roman world and had significant religious and political implications. The two emperors initially coexisted following the Edict of Milan in 313 CE, which they had issued together to ensure religious tolerance throughout the empire. However, tensions between them grew over time due to conflicting ambitions, differing religious policies, and a gradual erosion of trust. The first major conflict erupted in 314 CE when Constantine and Licinius clashed over territory and influence. Constantine, already a strong supporter of Christianity, viewed Licinius's increasingly restrictive policies toward Christians as a direct challenge to the principles they had jointly endorsed. After a series of smaller skirmishes, Constantine's forces defeated Licinius's army in the Battle of Sabali in Pannonia, modern-day Croatia. Though Licinius suffered a setback, a temporary peace was brokered, and the two emperors divided the empire once more. Despite this truce, their rivalry continued to simmer. Licinius, feeling threatened by Constantine's growing influence and popularity among Christians, adopted a harsher stance against Christianity in his territories, likely to reassert his authority and appeal to the more traditional polytheist factions within the empire. Constantine, meanwhile, saw himself as the protector of the Christian faith and used this religious divide as a moral justification for further military action. The final conflict began in 324 CE, as Constantine launched a full-scale campaign against Licinius to unify the empire under his rule. The decisive battles took place at Adrianople and then at Chrysopolis, where Constantine achieved overwhelming victories. Licinius's forces were outmatched by Constantine's disciplined and battle-hardened army, which was larger, better equipped, and more strategically effective. After his defeat at Chrysopolis, Licinius surrendered and was initially spared by Constantine, who promised him safe exile. However, within a year, Licinius was executed on charges of conspiracy, ending the power struggle. With Licinius's defeat, Constantine emerged as the sole emperor of a united Roman Empire, marking the beginning of a new era. This victory allowed Constantine to implement his vision for a Christianized Roman state more fully, leading to significant changes in imperial policy and culture. His consolidation of power paved the way for the establishment of Constantinople as the new imperial capital, symbolizing a shift in the empire's focus toward the east and cementing Constantine's legacy as a transformative figure in Roman history. Constantine the Great's establishment of Constantinople in 330 CE was one of his most significant achievements, reshaping the Roman Empire's geography, politics, and culture. Located on the ancient city of Byzantium, Constantinople was strategically positioned on the Bosporus Strait, providing a natural crossroads between Europe and Asia. This location gave the city critical advantages for trade, defense, and communication, making it an ideal choice for a new imperial capital. Constantine's decision to create a new capital in the east was partly a response to the empire's changing dynamics. By the 4th century, the eastern provinces were wealthier and more populated than the west, and they were increasingly crucial for defending against threats from Persia and other eastern rivals. Rome, the traditional capital, had become geographically and politically distant from these eastern challenges. Additionally, Constantine likely saw an opportunity to leave his own mark on the empire by founding a city that would reflect his vision and legacy. Constantine invested heavily in transforming Byzantium into a grand imperial capital. He expanded the city's boundaries, adding new fortifications, public buildings, and infrastructure. Major construction projects included the Hippodrome, an expansive stadium for chariot races and other public spectacles, and the Great Palace, which became the emperor's primary residence. He also ordered the construction of numerous churches, notably the original Church of Hagia Sophia, signaling Constantinople's intended role as a center of Christian faith and worship. Constantinople was designed to rival Rome in grandeur and symbolism. Constantine sought to endow it with both the traditional grandeur of Rome and the innovative spirit of a new Christian empire. He commissioned statues, monuments, and forums that echoed Rome's architectural style, yet he also incorporated Christian symbols and places of worship, marking a departure from the pagan roots of the earlier imperial cities. The city soon became known as Nova Roma, or New Rome, embodying Constantine's goal of blending Rome's imperial heritage with his Christian vision. The establishment of Constantinople as the new capital had lasting impacts on the Roman Empire. It shifted the center of power eastward, setting the stage for the rise of the Byzantine Empire, which would thrive for over 1,000 years after the fall of the Western Roman Empire. Constantinople's Christian character influenced the development of Eastern Orthodox Christianity, and the city eventually became one of the most significant centers of Christian theology and culture. Constantine's foundation of Constantinople thus secured his legacy and shaped the course of European and Near Eastern history for centuries to come. Constantine the Great's Christianization and religious reforms were transformative for the Roman Empire, ushering in an era where Christianity began to transition from a persecuted faith to the dominant religion. While Constantine's precise beliefs are debated, his support for Christianity reshaped the religious landscape of the empire and laid the groundwork for its widespread acceptance. After his victory at the Battle of the Milvian Bridge in 312 CE and the issuance of the Edict of Milan in 313, Constantine adopted a more favorable stance toward Christianity, ending centuries of persecution. The edict granted religious tolerance, allowing Christians and followers of other religions to worship freely. However, Constantine's reforms went beyond merely tolerating Christianity. He actively promoted it, building churches and granting privileges to Christian clergy, who were exempted from taxes and military duties. His patronage of Christianity was evident in the construction of grand churches, including the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem and the original Basilica of St. Peter in Rome, symbolizing his commitment to elevating Christian worship. One of Constantine's most significant acts was convening the First Council of Nicaea in 325 CE, a landmark event in Christian history. This council sought to resolve theological disputes, especially regarding Arianism, a doctrine that questioned the divine nature of Jesus. Constantine, though not a theologian, presided over the council as a unifying figure and encouraged the bishops to adopt a common doctrine, which resulted in the Nicene Creed. This creed laid the foundation for mainstream Christian theology and demonstrated Constantine's role as a protector of the faith. Constantine's religious policies also subtly encouraged Christian values within Roman law. While he did not abolish traditional pagan practices, he implemented laws that reflected Christian ethics, such as prohibiting certain brutal practices like gladiatorial combat and instituting more humane treatment for prisoners. Additionally, he introduced the observance of Sunday as a day of rest and encouraged the empire's moral alignment with Christian principles. Although Constantine did not impose Christianity as the empire's official religion, his support accelerated its acceptance across Roman society. Christianity became associated with imperial favor, attracting converts from all levels of society. The emperor's Christianization policies profoundly influenced his successors and established a precedent for Christian emperors who would later formally make Christianity the state religion under Theodosius I in 380 CE. Constantine's religious reforms not only shaped the Roman Empire, but also set Christianity on a path to becoming a global faith. His policies promoted unity within the church, strengthened its infrastructure, and established an enduring alliance between church and state, all of which would shape Western civilization for centuries to come. Constantine the Great implemented a series of significant administrative and military reforms that fundamentally transformed the structure and efficiency of the Roman Empire. These reforms were crucial for addressing the challenges posed by the empire's vast territory, internal strife, and external threats, and they laid the groundwork for the future Byzantine Empire. Administrative Reforms 1. Provincial reorganization. Constantine divided the Roman Empire into smaller administrative units to enhance governance and improve local control. He established dioceses as new administrative divisions, grouping provinces into larger entities for more efficient management. This restructuring allowed for better oversight and communication across the empire. 2. Civil service reforms. To create a more effective bureaucracy, Constantine emphasized the importance of a professional civil service. He implemented merit-based appointments and increased salaries for civil officials to attract skilled individuals to public service. This focus on competence helped reduce corruption and inefficiency within the administration. 3. Taxation system. Constantine reformed the empire's tax system to ensure a stable revenue stream. He standardized tax collection processes and introduced new taxes, such as the capitatio, a poll tax on individuals, and the tributum, an agricultural tax. These changes aimed to increase state revenues while also ensuring that taxation was more equitable. 4. Legal reforms. Under Constantine, the legal system was streamlined to ensure that laws were more consistent and accessible. He issued laws that addressed various social and economic issues, promoting justice and stability within the empire. He also emphasized the protection of the Christian Church, ensuring that ecclesiastical properties were safeguarded. Military Reforms 1. Military structure. Constantine reorganized the Roman military into more efficient units, incorporating a clearer hierarchy and increasing the number of troops. He created mobile field armies, known as comitatenses, which could be rapidly deployed to respond to threats along the empire's borders. This adaptability allowed for a more responsive military strategy. 2. Border defense. To address the growing threats from barbarian tribes, Constantine strengthened the empire's frontiers, or limes. He built fortified cities and military outposts along critical border regions, enhancing defenses and creating a more formidable presence. This focus on fortification was crucial in maintaining security and deterring invasions. 3. Military recruitment. Constantine also reformed military recruitment by enlisting a broader range of soldiers, including more local troops. He encouraged the use of non-Roman soldiers, including barbarians, integrating them into the Roman army. This approach expanded the military's manpower and introduced new tactics and strategies. 4. Funding and support. To sustain his military reforms, Constantine increased funding for the armed forces and improved the logistical support for troops. He ensured that soldiers received better pay and benefits, fostering loyalty and discipline within the ranks. The increased support for the military helped maintain a strong and capable fighting force. These administrative and military reforms were crucial in stabilizing the Roman Empire during a period of significant transition. By enhancing governance, improving taxation, and restructuring the military, Constantine created a more resilient and efficient state that could respond effectively to internal challenges and external threats. His reforms not only facilitated the management of a vast empire, but also set a precedent for future rulers, influencing the administrative and military organization of the Byzantine Empire that would emerge in the centuries following his reign. The later years of Constantine the Great's life were marked by a decline in health, which ultimately led to his death in 337 CE. His health issues began to surface around the early 330s, likely exacerbated by the immense stress of ruling a vast empire and managing ongoing military and political challenges. As he aged, Constantine faced various ailments, including chronic pain, which some historians speculate may have been related to a form of dropsy or possibly even a severe skin condition. Despite these health problems, he remained active in governance and military affairs, often personally overseeing campaigns and administrative reforms. However, as his health deteriorated, he began to withdraw from public life, relying more on trusted advisors and officials to manage state affairs. In the spring of 337 CE, while preparing for a military campaign against the Sasanian Empire in the east, Constantine fell seriously ill. Recognizing that his end was near, he made the significant decision to undergo baptism, a rite he had delayed throughout his life. Constantine was baptized by Eusebius of Nicomedia, a prominent bishop who had supported Arianism, which reflected the complexities of Christian beliefs during that period. His decision to be baptized shortly before his death highlights the importance he placed on the sacrament and his desire for spiritual purification. Constantine died on May 22, 337, in Nicomedia, present-day Izmit, Turkey. Following his death, he was buried in a lavish tomb in the Church of the Holy Apostles in Constantinople, which he had commissioned during his reign. His death marked the end of a transformative era for the Roman Empire, as he had been instrumental in the spread of Christianity and the reorganization of the empire's administration and military. After his death, Constantine's legacy was contested among his heirs. His three sons, Constantine II, Constantius II, and Constans, fought for control over the empire, leading to further fragmentation and conflict. Despite these challenges, Constantine the Great is remembered as a pivotal figure in Roman history, having laid the foundations for the Byzantine Empire and significantly shaped the future of Christianity within the Roman world. His reign marked a turning point in the relationship between the Church and the state, a legacy that would influence European history for centuries to come. Constantine the Great's legacy is profound and multifaceted, marking a turning point in Roman history and shaping the trajectory of Western civilization. His reign established Christianity as a major force within the Roman Empire, facilitating its transition from a persecuted faith to the dominant religion. Constantine's policies, including the Edict of Milan, promoted religious tolerance and set the stage for the Church's increasing influence on political and social life. His efforts in building a Christian infrastructure, such as the construction of significant churches and the promotion of Christian leaders, underscored his commitment to the faith and helped solidify Christianity's role in the empire. In addition to his religious reforms, Constantine's administrative and military restructuring laid the groundwork for the future Byzantine Empire. His division of the empire into smaller, more manageable units improved governance and allowed for more effective control over diverse regions. The establishment of Constantinople as a new capital not only shifted the center of power eastward, but also created a vibrant cultural and commercial hub that would thrive for centuries. The city became a symbol of the Roman legacy, blending classical Roman architecture with Christian ideals, and its significance would endure long after the fall of the Western Roman Empire. Upon his death in 337 CE, Constantine's legacy continued through his sons, who inherited a divided empire. His three sons, Constantine II, Constans, and Constantius II, struggled for power, leading to political instability and conflict. Constantius II ultimately emerged as the most prominent ruler among them, continuing his father's policies of promoting Christianity while dealing with internal divisions and external threats. Despite the initial unity that Constantine established, his successors faced challenges in maintaining control over the empire. The rivalry among Constantine's sons and the subsequent civil wars weakened the imperial structure and foreshadowed the eventual division of the Roman Empire. Nonetheless, Constantine's impact on Christianity, governance, and military strategy left an indelible mark on history. His legacy as the first Christian emperor shaped not only the future of the Roman Empire, but also the broader contours of Western civilization, influencing the relationship between church and state for centuries to come.